So, NASA is hiring 24 religious scholars to examine how humanity will respond to the discovery of aliens. And if anything, this headline sounds very, very weird because this is like Marvel and DC coming together to make a movie. Because this is science, which will say believe in the Big Bang, and then there's religion, which will believe in the creation theory. Like they're coming together to actually do some shit together. Like this is wild. Because first of all, at least NASA is acknowledging that they believe in the existence of aliens, but more so than that, why exactly would they need to know how it is that aliens would be received by the Christian or the Muslim or whichever religious population is there? Like, isn't that a little bit odd?
Get ready for the battle of the sexes.
Just think about it for a second. The idea of having a bunch of aliens going to a mosque, going to church, going to a Hindu temple and shit, like it seems a little bit far-fetched because first of all, they're supposed to be, as at least most people have been saying, more evolved than us humans are. And we don't know if they have the same male-female gender comparison. We don't know if they reproduce by cell division or some shit. But out of all of this, NASA decides, let's get a bunch of Christian and Muslim guys because what else would be nicer than having an alien go to church and then have some guy come and be like, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal savior? Like, how exactly would we consider that to be something that's paramount in an alien survival on this planet? Like, imagine if they're used to walking around naked and then they go to a mosque and then they identify as either male, female, transgender, I don't know. And then they're told, you have to cover up. You have to wear a buoy because we don't know if you have a dick and we haven't checked to see if you have a vagina. Like, that shit makes me question NASA for a lot more things because if they're getting to the point where they're thinking about religion, then maybe the question shouldn't be, are there aliens out there, but how long have they been staying with us? Because at the point at which they're considering religion, that's mostly a social interaction. Going to a church, going to a Hindu temple, going to the likes of a mosque, like that requires social interaction, which means that they're probably already here and they're probably even just chilling at a NASA base, busy, just sipping on Earth's fine wines and shit. Although at the same time, I wonder how the Hindus would take it because I know a lot of the Indians who practice Hindu are still fairly racist. So they'll probably look for the darker aliens and then split them away from the lighter aliens and then treat the lighter aliens nicer. Like, it is something that I do think might actually happen, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me that thinks that way. Maybe the Hindus are a lot nicer, although I do honestly feel like the Buddhists would probably be the nicest one out of all of us because those guys are so nice and harmless. And considering that a lot of them like chilling in a mountain and just chilling alone like monks and shit, like they probably look at the rest of us human beings as extraterrestrials, so they'll be welcome to that shit. But then again, I barely know shit about Buddhists, so who the hell am I to say this shit? What I do know about is that there is a podcast that I am doing, which I should have started because time has really flown, and I like to start in my very typical fashion where I start by saying, welcome to Breaktime on Westside, your number one Breaktime podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man who believes that his next girlfriend is going to literally be out of this world, especially if she comes with 4 asses and like 3 tits. He's a man who sees the ass in astrology. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Battle of the Sexes, our weekly love, sex, and relationships show, where I get to talk about love, sex, and relationships. And while some people disagree, at some point I might come to a conclusion, and you are free to discuss it even after I have discussed it. And if you do want to do that, if you do want to suggest a topic that I should talk about, then on IG it is at Breaktime on Westside, on Facebook it is also at Breaktime on Westside, and on Twitter it is at Bagaka the D, which happens to be my personal Twitter handle. All those DMs are open. You can slide in there. You can discuss. If you agree, if you disagree, if there is something that you would want me to discuss on the podcast, then I would be glad to check it out and I might just consider doing it. But then again, can we just go back to the whole ET thing with NASA? Like, think about it. If those things actually know how to give head better than women, like, I don't know, it's just a random thought. But anyways, that aside, we should get into our main topic of today. But before we do that, we need to go to the UK for a bit and look at how hard it is to get married, at least for a Muslim man, because A 29-year-old UK-based bachelor was so desperate to find a partner, he spent several £100s on multiple billboards in an attempt to get the word out. And he says on the billboard, "Saved me from an arranged marriage." And he put it on like 20-foot sized ads on billboards all across Birmingham. And well, by the looks of it, this guy is so dedicated to it, he even has a website for it. Now, the man in question is known as Malik, and he says on his website, which is findmalikawife.com, "Hi, I'm Malik. You may have seen my face on a billboard somewhere. I am 29, live in La Vida in London. I'm an entrepreneur and a foodie, and I'm religious." And he says his current loves are food, quality conversation, and learning more about his faith. And he is looking for someone who is nearby, who is working on her deen. Deen being Arabic for religion. So he's doing all of this so that he doesn't get into an arranged marriage arranged by his parents. And to a certain degree, I can kind of understand why he'd want to do this, because when you kind of think about it, you can't exactly get a second, third, or a fourth wife while you're in the UK. At least last I checked, because it's strictly monogamous, and for you as like a citizen there, you can't have more than one wife, as opposed to Muslim culture, which allows for like 4. So normally, like if it was here in Nairobi, much as we are mostly a monogamous society, we do allow for polygamy to a certain degree because of culture and shit. So you can find that a Muslim man can literally get into an arranged marriage by the parents and get his first wife from there. But wives 2, 3, and 4 are usually entirely up to him. So it makes sense why he'd want to escape the whole arranged marriage, because he wouldn't want to spend the rest of his life with someone that he doesn't love. And it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense. I can totally understand that. Although I would probably tell him that arranged marriages do have a much longer lifespan than the typical ones where we go and look for someone that we want to marry based on the fact that we love them. Although granted, it still does come down to the two people that did get married and whether they choose to stay together. But here's how I look at it. Like, this guy clearly does not want an arranged marriage. Although some of these times you can get an arranged marriage and you find that the babe that your parents are priming up for you is fine as fuck. And hell, she might not be interested in you, but the fact that it's arranged means that you're still gonna get to clap those cheeks whether you like to or not. So in one way or another, it might actually be a good thing. It might actually be a good thing. But I can get how he's not entirely interested in the entire idea because, you know, Western culture, Western society, you should have your own freedom of choice, blah, blah. But to a certain degree, I do like his selection process. Like for him, he's fairly interested in something fairly simple. And considering that he has spent money on billboards and he's in the tech space, he's 29 years old and he seems to be doing pretty well for himself, I don't think he's gonna have that much of a problem finding a babe that wants to marry him. The only thing is finding a babe that's actually religious. That's probably where the biggest issue is. Although this story does bring something out that a lot of people nowadays don't want to admit, more so guys, and that is guys are actually just as interested in marriage as women are. Yes, I can get it. Nowadays, there's a lot more people who are like, oh, why should I get married? Oh, marriage isn't a good thing. And more so, it's a lot of guys nowadays that are like, why the hell would I bother getting married? You know, why would I go and pretty much sign a contract where I'm like, I am going to be with this person forever or I can lose half my shit? And I know, it sounds like it's a bad idea. If you let a lot of current young guys tell you about marriage today, like they make marriage seem like it's such a bad idea and it's such a bad thing. Even though you will actually find statistically men are actually very happy after they get married. Like they can actually end up being happier after they get married. And this is a very clear proof that this is someone who is actually interested in getting married. And not all young guys today just want to hoe around and they're not looking to get married because it looks like it's a downside for them. Like there's plus sides to marriage. And for the people that do actually manage to get married, then they might actually get to enjoy the benefits that come with it. For those who don't, they could probably look at other people's marriages and say, oh, you know, this is why I didn't get married. But at the end of the day, they'll never really know what benefits they had because they never really chose to get married. And that said, I think each and every guy who has once thought of getting married should probably look at the idea again. Yes, I know there's a fuck ton of people nowadays that speak against it, both men and women, but honestly, it should come down to you. And sometimes you actually realize that you will gain more fulfillment from marriage than you will from being single. Like, yes, being single does afford you a bit more freedom, but you will find, especially in your later years, that marriage and having a family does carry quite an amount of fulfillment. Although at the end of the day, it still does come down to whether you want to do it or not, and whether you actually do choose to enjoy the space and environment that you're in. But that said, we should leave it at that. I do wish the man from the UK, Mr. Malik, all the best in finding a wife. But I am going to move it on from there so we can take it to our main topic of today. And sometime last week, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and at some point we ended up talking about the whole idea of men and women and the social interactions and whether friends can actually be like a true thing. And it was a bit of a back and forth. And yes, I know I have discussed this before, but at some point, someone else sent me a clip on this entire question, which kind of made me rethink the entire thing. And I thought maybe I might have actually been looking at this a little bit differently. Now, I am going to play the clip for you guys. And as usual, if you've listened to Battle of the Sexes whenever I do this, I will state what it is that I like, what it is that I don't like, and what I think we should learn from, and possibly a conclusion. So, here it is.
Are men and women actually really friends out here? If in most cases, which I believe most cases are like this, where people are, yeah, that's my girl, that's my friend, like, oh, nothing. No, that's just a guy, that's my big bro, blah, blah. The minute you become aware that you're attracted to said person, you are no longer friends. I don't think it's to say that the person's not attractive. It's once you become aware that I am attracted to this person, then you are no longer their friend. So I think there's a lot of women that have, oh, that's my guy friend, blah, 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 because they are not attracted to those men. But it does not mean those men are their friends from the men's perspective. There's a big difference between saying, yo, that's an attractive girl versus, yeah, I'm attracted to her. Those are two different things.
All right. Okay. So what's being brought out here is, yes, can you be friends? Then it's possible. But once you realize that there's an attraction, then it becomes questionable whether you are friends, whether you should be considered friends. And funny enough, that's actually the main thing that I agree with. Like, I do agree that if you are male and female friends, like if you guys consider each other friends, the moment one of you gets some sort of attraction to the other, then there's a very good chance that your friendship dynamic will change. Literally everything changes. And you never notice this better than when one of y'all decides to come out and state that there's feelings. Because if the other person doesn't feel the same way, then the entire dynamic changes completely. And no matter how much you will try to keep things normal, you will try to make things normal, it's not gonna feel the same. Because on one end, especially with the babes, when a guy comes out and says that he has feelings for you, it's like y'all start to question us, because now the trust kind of drops, because now it becomes a question of, is he only my friend because he wanted to sleep with me? Is he only my friend because he has feelings? Is it a genuine friendship? Of which I do honestly feel like the whole idea of the genuine friendship needs to be debated a little bit. But something that I don't agree with in this entire thing is the idea that men and women can't be friends. Yes, they didn't exactly say that, but it seemed more of an implication to a certain degree, of which, to be honest, I do think that we can be friends. I do honestly think that we can be friends. It's just that it's not going to be as straightforward as you might think, because when you think about male friendships, it's never really like all like direct one way kind of thought. Like, it is quite oftentimes fairly oversimplified, because when you think about it, when you ask most guys nowadays, actually when you ask a lot of guys nowadays on whether men and women can be friends, minus a lot of the woke people that try to make it sound like, oh, it's perfectly okay, a lot of guys will be like, men and women can't be friends. If we're friends, you're probably unattractive to me, or I'm in the friend zone and I really want to fuck. Like, they look at it as just one of those two things. And I do feel like I did feel before that that was how it was. It's either you're not attracted to that person or you're attracted to that person and you're in the friend zone. Seems pretty simple. But I don't know. I think it's because of my time working and being in corporate for a little bit, and I think, expanding the number of friends that I have, I started to look at it a little bit differently. And I feel like that's an oversimplification of it all. Because when you think about it, how many babes do you think befriend guys with the idea that they're going to date them? Like, that shit it's a fairly common thing. It's a fairly common thing. Babes will end up befriending guys that they really like. And I do think maybe it's just the fact that the sex factor is usually, very, very pronounced when guys are trying to bang a babe who's like their friend. But for the most part, it does seem like it is fairly the same thing. But I think more so than that, there's a lot of people that push this thing of, real friends or genuine friendships. And I do think that is something that does contribute to this whole bias of, men and women can't be good friends. Like, they can't really be friends. Because when you think about the whole idea of a genuine friendship, it's like this whole thing of, we care about each other and there's nothing that we're trying to like milk out of the other person, which I think is a fair bit of bullshit. Like, I'm just gonna be honest, I do think it is a fair bit of bullshit. Do I believe in real genuine friendships? Yes, I do. But when you think about it, friendships, just the same way socialization is set up, is about benefit. Like, us human beings being social, us coming together and doing shit together, it's usually all for benefit. The only question is it mutual benefit or is the benefit singular? Because when you actually look at it, a lot of friendships are usually based on like three main bits. So there's friendships that are based on the past, such that you guys grew up together, you guys have been friends since you were kids or family friends, or you guys have been to the same church, or you've been in the same school for years. So you guys are friends because you share a past, and that past is what keeps you guys together. So you guys feel like you know each other and you understand each other. Now, while it does seem mutually beneficial, a lot of times those friendships don't really amount to that much. Like, you guys just know each other for a very, very long time. So you guys feel like you do know each other. Yet, when it comes to mutual benefit, the both of you might not be mutually beneficial to each other. So can you call that a genuine or a real friendship? Yeah, but if your friend who you've known for all of these years suddenly starts working against you, or suddenly starts doing some shit and doesn't include you, or does it behind your back and profits off of your suffering, then it suddenly doesn't make it seem as genuine or as real. Then you look at the more present friend, those are the friends for now. Those are the types that you'll probably meet at the club and you'll be homies, and then you guys will hit each other up whenever you guys are going out or some shit, or you guys are just interested in the fun for now or the work for now. Like, that's where a lot of the acquaintances kind of fall in, because you realize that we're only friends because we work together, or we're only friends because we party together, or we're only friends because we have like mutual friends who will have all of us meet up and then we can go and do some fun shit together. And those are friends for the present. Now, those ones are considered to be the least genuine, even though some of them actually are the most genuine, because they clearly know what it is that they contribute there, and they are there for the exact amount of time that's required. Then you look at the ones that look forward to the future, and those are the friendships that are based on the future, and those ones are the ones that are considered to be the most real or the most genuine. But at the end of it, it still comes down to the same exact thing. Is it mutually beneficial? Like, that's where it's at. And to be honest, when you look at most friendships, if they're not mutually beneficial, then one person's gonna be calling the other one a fake friend, or they're gonna be saying that they're not real. So when your motivational speaker is busy telling you, now that a new year is upon us, you should cut out all the fake friends, like, you might feel like you're a real friend to one of your homies, but because they don't see whatever benefit you contribute, then they'll cut you off because they think you're a fake friend. Like, that's just it. So the true essence of a true, genuine, real friendship is mutual benefit. And sometimes the mutual benefit can only be for the present, and sometimes the mutual benefit might have passed, but at the end of the day, friendships are mostly about mutual benefit. Now, going back to the whole relationships thing, because I feel like I deviated a little too much, like, when you look at a guy and a babe and they're friends, and this guy suddenly feels the attraction for her, Now, it does kind of split two ways because it depends on which one comes first on the priority list before and say during the friendships. So, like, if this guy wanted to bang you from the get-go and y'all ended up becoming friends, then there's a pretty good chance that your friendship is based on this guy wanting to bang you. So he is looking for the chance to do it. And if you say no, there is no chance in hell that we're going to do it, and he accepts that as a reality, then don't be surprised if he just stops talking to you, or he decides to buzz off, or your communication breaks down, or your friendship just ends. Because at the end of it, this guy's benefit was the sex. Now, if you did not find mutual benefit that went along with the sex, then unfortunately that friendship cannot remain. Now, if you have a guy who's been your friend for the longest time, probably wasn't attracted to you, then probably at some point he opened his eyes a little wider. He saw how fire you looked, and he suddenly felt the feeling of, oh, I want to date this babe, or I want to bang this babe. Then at that point, you could say that they could still be a friend. Now, of course, the only way to find out is if this guy went and tried and you told him no. Then at that point, then it becomes a question of which one is more important to me. Is it the friendship or is it the bang? Now, a lot of times when you find that you had a friendship like that and then you felt like banging, or you wanted to date and she turned you down, a lot of times it's fairly common for a guy to be like, all right, it's cool, we'll just leave it at that and we can just continue being friends. Because at the end of the day, you are my friend and I value our friendship, and I would not want to jeopardize that by continuously trying to do it or continuously asking for it, yet you definitely said no. And because we're human beings and we are fortunately adults, you can understand how complicated it can be that even though I look at the idea of banging you as something that I would do, I also do value our friendship and I put it above that. Because it is something that a lot of guys actually do. And I am a pretty good example of that. Because when I actually look through a lot of my female friends, I am not going to lie to you. Like half to 3/4 of them, I would bang them in a heartbeat. Like, give me a chance and I will do it no holds barred, and I will enjoy the fuck out of that shit. But are you telling me that I won't be a genuine friend simply because my desire to bang them is there? No. Because at the end of the day, my mutual benefit with these babes is beyond what the sex is. And maybe it might be business, maybe it might be on a social level, maybe it's emotional, maybe it's mental or psychological benefit. But at the end of the day, because the mutual benefits that we were supposed to have were not on the sexual level, it means that me throwing it in there might be a huge plus, but it not being there is perfectly okay. And that's where the precedence is. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to a question of, are we friends because you want to bang me, or are we friends because there is such and such that we share together? Like, if at the end of the day for the guy, he still wants to bang, then he's definitely in it for his own personal reasons, especially if you're not down for it. But if it's something that's beyond that, then it's something that's very possible as well, even though the desire to bang you is actually there. Now, unfortunately, I'd probably give some way of figuring out which one is there or the other when it comes to checking with guys, but I'm sorry babes, this one is something that you'll have to find out on your own. But that said, let me just conclude by saying this. As a guy, if I see an attractive woman and I do feel attracted to her, then my desire to bang her might just definitely be that. There's a pretty high likelihood that it'll be there. If I'm attracted to her and she seems my type, there's a pretty good chance that my desire to bang her will be there. But that said, if it is not the primary reason why we are friends, then it does not mean that that's all I'll want from our friendship. Now, the main difference between that and being the guy that just wants to bang is, on one side, you have a friend. On the other side, you're in the friend zone. For you as a guy, it is for you to decide whether you are a friend or you are in the friend zone. But either way, for the sake of the benefit of everyone, it is very good to make sure you put that down from the get-go. That way, you do not end up wasting someone else's time with the belief that, oh, I might just hit, yet they are valuing the friendship, while on the other hand, you might actually be having a chance to bang this person and they might actually be interested in you in that exact same way, but the fact that none of you is actually coming out to state it, y'all will end up wasting so much time that you guys would have spent either banging or dating or doing all sorts of other shit that you'd have probably wanted to do together. But anyways, that said, I might be wrong about this shit, so I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, it is @BreakTime on Westside. On Facebook, it is also @BreakTime on Westside. And on Twitter, you can slide into my personal DMs, which is @BagakaTheD. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end. And if you are listening through Castbox, feel free to drop your thoughts and comments below, and I will attend to them accordingly. If you are using an app that allows for ratings and reviews, a rating and or review will be highly appreciated. And I will catch you guys on the next break.